Hello there, everybody, and a happy 4th of July to each and every one of you. My name is Doug Patterson. I am the senior minister of Smithfield United Church of Christ, located in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this is now the 4th or 5th time I've attempted to start this worship video service. Why? Well, I started outside, down on my deck, which is the place I usually tape these videos. But just as I started to hear some thunder. So I stopped the video. Then started to rain, and I had to stop the video again. So I decided, well, let's go up underneath the patio. So I moved everything up to the patio where I was under cover. But it started to blow so hard that the rain was coming in. So I said, this is ridiculous. So I've had to move my studio out here into my garage. I hope you don't mind. Now, that's not the only thing that you're going to find different about this week's video. As most of you know, on Sunday, July the 4th of July, we are resuming with our in-person worship services at Smithfield, beginning at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so, as a result, a lot of people have asked, if you're going to go back to in-person corporate worship, what's going to happen with these videos? The answer is, I'm going to continue to put them together. Why? Because I know that so many of you, in fact, the majority of you that watch these, are not Smithfield members. You don't live anywhere close to our church. Some of you are housebound. Some of you just tune in because you like our approach to the Christian faith. And I don't want to leave you in the lurch. So I don't know how these videos are going to be put together in the weeks to come, but I do know that we're going to do them. Now, this week is a transitional, perhaps the next couple of weeks are going to be transitional videos. In that, Jim Varner, our music director, and Susan Cherian, our associate minister, they're preparing for our in-person worship, so they did not submit tapes for this week. That's not to say that we won't have tapes from them from time to time, but it's just going to be different. I hope you'll bear with us because we all love God, don't we? And we want to be here to learn more and to spend a few moments every week just turning our attention to the presence of a loving God. So although things may change a little bit, I want you to know that this does not change. And it is this, that myself, all of us at Smithfield, we wish only the best for you. And most of all, our prayer is that the peace of Christ will be with you now and always. Let's begin our worship together, shall we? There are two scripture lessons for this week. The first comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. Jesus left that place and went back to his hometown, followed by his disciples. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue. Many people were there, and when they heard him, they were all amazed. Where did he get all this? They asked. What wisdom is this that has been given him? How does he perform miracles? Isn't he the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters living here? And so they rejected him. And Jesus said to them, prophets are respected everywhere except in their own hometown and by their relatives and their family. He was not able to perform any miracles there, except that he placed his hands on a few sick people and healed them. The second comes from Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. But to keep me from being puffed up with pride because of the many wonderful things I saw, I was given a painful physical ailment, which acts as Satan's messenger to beat me and keep me from being proud. 3 times I prayed to the Lord about this and asked him to take it away, but his answer was, "My grace is all you need, for my power is greatest when you are weak." I am most happy then to be proud of my weaknesses, in order to feel the protection of Christ's power over me. I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecution, and difficulties for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. May God add his blessing to the reading and the hearing of these 2 portions from his holy word. And this is the word of the Lord.
Do I feel discouraged? And why do the shadows come? And why does my heart feel so lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me.
I want to talk with you this week about power. How we as people of faith can recognize it, how we can grab onto it, and how we can be grateful for it. And before I get into the couple of scripture lessons that I've previously read to you in this video, I want to make a comment, and the comment is this, is that I don't want you to ever allow anybody to take away your patriotism. I say that because I know that here in our country, this United States of America, which we all love very much, there is a very strong tendency for a certain political party, a certain faction of Christianity, to grab on to patriotism, love for this country, and hold it as their own in a very righteous, self-righteous, judgmental way. And it comes out like this. Well, if you are a liberal, if you are a progressive, if you are a Democrat, if you are anything at all like this, then you can't possibly love this country. This country belongs to us. I rail against this. I rail against this with every fiber of my body. Why? Because this country does not belong just to a certain select few. Patriotism is not a club to be used for your own special purpose. I'm a liberal. I'm a progressive. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a registered independent voter. But I love this country. I love this country with everything that I have. Sure, it has faults, and I speak out against them, and I try to work to correct all the wrongs and the things that arise in our country that prevent us from acting in compassionate ways. I speak out against all of these things, but I love this country, and I know you do too. Don't ever let anybody take that away from you. Don't ever let or allow anybody, any party, any group to strip you of your love for this country or to make you feel less of a patriot because of who you are. That's all I want to say about that. I think you get my message. I think you get my vibe, don't you? Of course you do. All right, let's talk about power for a little bit, all right? It's interesting that Jesus went to his hometown, and while he was there, he began to teach in the synagogue. He was the guest preacher for the day, if you will. And as people were listening to him, they first of all, they thought he was just great, but then they started to say, wait a minute, time out, this is Jesus. He grew up here. We used to watch him misbehave, you know. Isn't he the one that broke a couple windows down there in the, at the local grocery store? Isn't he the one that, sometimes didn't deliver our paper on time? Isn't this the kid that I mean, how can he possibly have this kind of wisdom, this kind of understanding, this kind of power? He can't possibly have it. And because, you see, they doubted this, Jesus said, I can't do anything here. I don't have any power here because they have no faith in me. And Jesus said something that I applaud and that I say with some regularity at least, and it's this, that the most difficult place to be a Christian or a person of faith is in your own family. The people who know you the best. And it can be other folks as well. It doesn't have to be your biological family. It can be just the people you work with, the people you grew up, the people who are familiar with you. This is the most difficult place to act out our faith. Not sure why, but I know it is. And it's kind of comforting to know that I'm not alone in this. You're not alone in this. Jesus felt it too. Power. How is it given? To whom is it given? And how is it distributed? Jesus said, I can't do anything unless people have faith and confidence. Well, it's this faith and confidence, you see, that the Apostle Paul talks about when he said, listen, he said, just because you have faith in God or faith in Jesus does not mean that your life is going to be trouble-free. Indeed, he said, I have a painful physical ailment. Now, there's some conjecture, there's a lot of theories perhaps as to what this ailment was, but it was enough that Paul, he didn't really complain about it, he just stated it as a fact. You see, I have this pain. And he said, 3 times I've asked God to remove this from my life. And every time God has said, no, because when you are weak, you see, when you are in pain, that's when my power can become the most apparent. Now, there's a story in the life and teaching of Jesus, ministry of Jesus, where there was an individual who was really, really ill. He had a lot of physical problems. And his disciples and the people around said to Jesus, why is this? Who sinned? See, they thought that physical ailments were the consequence of sin. Who sinned? This person or his parents? Who sinned that caused him to be this way? And Jesus said, no, you're missing the point. It's not about who sinned. It's just that in weakness and in sickness and in a lack of power, so to speak, that's when the power of God, you see, can really be made known. So when we have, and we all do, when we have deficiencies in our life, when we have problems in our life, when we have things that tear us apart, whether they be physical or spiritual or psychological or emotional, there are a lot of wounds in our life and a lot of scars, and we wish that they weren't there. But when we realize, you see, when we take the words of Paul and the words of Jesus, when we take these biblical teachings and understand that that's the way life is, and we can either complain about it or we can understand that this is a way for God's power, you see, to be made known in and through our lives. That's what we have to focus on. Now, I want to talk about this word focus as it relates to power. You see, here in our country, one of the things that all of us are very grateful for, at least should be, is freedom and liberty. We always hear that you're free to be the person you want to be. You're free to take advantage of all opportunities. You can be anything you want to be. Well, as true as that is, it's too general to be workable, you see. It's got to be focused somehow. Power doesn't come through our lives. Creativity doesn't come through our lives. Faith doesn't come alive for us until we learn to focus. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me try to give you an example. Let's take a little boy who says, I want to build a model. And so his father takes him to a model shop. He doesn't take him to a pet store. He doesn't take him to a floral store, to a florist. He doesn't take him to a clothing store. He takes him because he wants to. He's already begun to focus. He takes him to a store where they sell models. Now, this is only the beginning. You see, he's already started to focus, already knows kind of what he wants. But when he gets into that store, you see, then he stands there and there are a lot of different aisles. In one aisle, there are models that you can build of automobiles. In another one, there are ships. In another one, there are houses. In another one, there are statues. In another one, there are airplanes. There's all kinds of things, and he stands there and which one of these, what do I want to do? Oh, okay, I'm gonna narrow it down. I'm gonna focus in. I want to build an airplane. See, this is the model I want to build, is an airplane. So he goes into that aisle. Once he gets into that aisle, the choices that are before him are still huge. What kind of an airplane do you want to build? Do you want to build a bi-wing, a tri-wing? Do you want to build a jet? Do you want to build a passenger airliner? Do you want to build a military fighting jet? What is it that you want to do? You see, so he stands there, he thinks about it, he looks at all of them, he checks out all the boxes. Finally, he decides, this is the one, this jet, this is what I'm going to build. Still, he's got lots of choices to make, you see. Okay, once you get that thing built, are you going to paint it? If so, what colors are you going to use? After it's painted, what decals are you going to put on it? What are you going to do? And after that, are you going to put it on a stand? Are you going to take it outside and play with it? What are you going to do? It's all about focus, but it's all about taking the general and bringing it down. Yeah, bringing it down until you say, this is it. Now, this is what's before us in terms of our lives and the opportunities that we have or don't have. This is what's before us in terms of faith, actually. You see, this is the flaw. You see, about you can be anything you want to be. Now, just by way of design, you see, if I say I want to give birth to a child, it was never going to happen. It's not ever going to happen. Why? Because I'm not a woman. I don't have what it takes to give birth to, physically give birth to a child. So already I'm limited, you see. But that doesn't mean that I can't be loving, can't be caring, can't be compassionate, can't be nurturing, not only to my own children, but to other children and to other youth and to other people. You see, this is where the power begins to come out. I can't do this, but the power of God can be alive in me. Let's say that I was born without arms, and there are people who are born, with a lot of what we call deficiencies. But sometimes they allow that to put them into a lifetime of depression and dependence. But a lot of times, you see, somebody who's born without arms, they might say, I would love to be a basketball player, but that's not in the cards for me. But I can become the greatest fan ever. I can be a student of the game. You see, I can really enjoy it. And I can do lots of other things. You see, I can do the power. Power is not limited in us if we allow it to spring forth from God. Does that make sense? Are you with me on this? Okay, and this is why Paul says, I give thanks for my sickness. I give thanks for my ailment. I give thanks for all the things that trouble me, because I know that these are pipelines, if you will, if I allow them to be, of God's love and grace and compassion and power. Now, if we don't learn to focus and to be specific about who we are, what we're capable of doing, and what we want to do, then we're just dealing with these generalities. And people that only deal with generalities love to criticize others. And this is why in the church we get so hung up with all of these rules and regulations, doctrines, creeds. They're so general, and we use them to judge one another, and we get lost in this forest, you see, of things that really don't matter. And they asked Jesus about this one day, and they said to him, listen, what are the great commandments? And Jesus said, you know what they are. Go read them, go study them, go do what you want to do. Argue about them, write books about them, give speeches about them, do what you want to do. But I'm telling you, he said, if you want to focus in on what really matters, it's really quite simple. There's only two things. One, you got to love God. You got to love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. This is number one. And number two, you got to love your neighbor. You got to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, he didn't say it would be easy, and in fact, it's not easy, but it just comes down to these two things. This is what focus is all about. And I'm telling you, if you would focus in on loving God and just focus in on that, and also focusing in on loving your neighbor as you love yourself, you will begin to grow as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus. Focus, focus, focus. So, we are enthralled with power. We are enthralled with might. We are enthralled with all of these big, booming, wondrous, huge things. But when something's bothering us, when something small, something big is happening in our lives, we should say, God, I wish it wasn't there. And if you want to take it away, it'd be great with me. In fact, I'm asking you to take it away. But if God doesn't take it away, and if it's not in the cards, you see, for that to be taken away, then like Paul, we say, thank you. Because now I have an opportunity to understand and experience, you see, your grace, your love, and your power. On this weekend, when we think about the freedoms that we have as Americans, we give thanks. We are grateful. We love our country. I love this country. I'm a patriot. So are you. But let's not lose sight of the fact that this freedom gives us the opportunity to focus. Focus, focus. And I hope and pray that on this weekend, you will sharpen your focus on the love of God. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. I appreciate it. Again, I want to tell you it's a little different, and it's going to take a while for this to settle in. If you're in the Pittsburgh area on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, stop in and see us at Smithfield. We would love to have you. We would love to see you. And most of all, as I close this out, as I always say, may the peace of Christ be with you.
For spacious skies, forever waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty, above the fruited plain of America, oh America, God sheds His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea